Hello, Copic in the Craft Room fans. Michelle Houghton here. I am super excited. Today I am joining Kraftin Kimmie on her June release, and she sent me this adorable set, Hipo-ray. I think I'm saying it right. And it is super cute. I couldn't even decide which of these hippos I wanted to do first, but I chose two of them that look like they are splashing in the water. And I'm going to test out a couple colors. I figured I'd rather not do a gray hippo, even though Copic gives me 4 options on gray. And so I'm doing a blue violet one. And this is a set of blue violets I don't use very much. It's the 3s, the BV3s. So I've got a 3-1, a 3-4, and then the 3-9. But I'm sneaking in there a violet in between the 3-4 and 3-9. There seemed to be a gap, so I pulled out a V2-8, and so that guy's gonna kind of sneak in there in between the two, and I think it's gonna help blend that a little bit better. This is kind of a fun set of BVs. It has a lot of gray to it, similar to the BV2s, but it just feels a little more violet to me, and so I liked the combination for the hippos. And I'm testing out, I tried a BV000 to see if I could go lighter, and it's a little bit too much violet, not enough gray. And I'm playing around with what I'm going to put in the water. So I've got a series of BGs that I'm double checking on to see if this is going to do what I want it to. Again, I don't do a ton with my blue greens as much as I love those colors, and so pulling these out and kind of retesting them to make sure I've got a series that I want. I'm also going to add some blue in there to make it have a little more color variation. So as you can see, this is kind of the process I go through on most of my images before I start coloring, and I don't always show this to you. In fact, I rarely do because it takes a little time. I've used my Copics long enough that usually I can pull out a couple groups and discover pretty quickly what I want, but on occasion I'll do more testing than what you're seeing here. I know that I'm going to trim this down quite a bit so that that part across the top of the image is going to get cut off anyway. The other thing you're going to note is the image is stamped in a light pink. This is a Memento ink. And that's going to disappear. So I am doing a little no-line coloring today. So I've started with the BV31, and I'm going to do both of the main body portions of the hippo. They're not super big, but I don't want to do one whole hippo because then I'm going to lose the lines and lose that hippo pretty fast. BV34 is next. And these guys are very round, very kind of spherical, ball-like. So I'm shading it accordingly, creating that shape. V28 is next. Smaller amounts as I get darker. Notice though that this one, it's almost blending in on its own, which I love. So it was a good choice to kind of jump in between these BVs. The BV29, I'm really just using at the far edges, and that's going to add that last little punch to make this guy look a little round. Going in reverse through my markers to blend these back together. Next, I'm starting on the heads, and I again start with my lightest marker, that BV31, but I'm going to take one little kind of jog in the action. I'm going to stop, and I'm going to use a multi-liner, 0.1, to add back in those little eyes that are on the hippos, because I don't want to lose those. The one guy has little eyes and eyebrows, and the other just has kind of the little slits for eyes, so I've added those back in. I decided once I had the top of their heads blended that the guy on the left, the one that's front facing, I was losing that separation between his head and his back. So I did darken that up a little bit more. And then on the noses, I added a whole new combination that you didn't see me testing. I decided I wanted them to be a little more fleshy. So I looked for some RVs and I found the series of 9s. So I've got the RV 9-1 and then an RV 9-3. Now what I want you to notice is that I'm leaving a little bit of that RV 9-1 showing where that little smile is taking place. And then the RV 9-5 is the darkest. Again, it's a ball shape, that sphere. And so I'm shading it just the same way that I did the body. But what I've left behind for the smile is actually a light line. I'm coming back in with some of those darker BVs to kind of pop those little spots on the nostrils. And then I use a Uni-Posh white, opaque white pen to add the teeth back in. So they really are bright. Same series on the second snout. And I'm going to get these little guys popped into their little pond of water. So I'm going to start with that BG10, which is super light. And I'm creating kind of this ripply plop that he's plopped down into. Now I realized after I created the card, I wish I'd brought that water up about 1 more inch. So it's actually almost above them, that kind of horizon line, but this still works. It's underneath them. And I've created these kind of U's of white left behind, showing that little bit of ripple. The BG11 is coming in and re-emphasizing those ripples. So I'm not going throughout the whole thing with that color, but it's creating the movement in the water. B91 is next. And again, very loose and actually very quickly just kind of skirting around those U's and then coming out and making some horizontal kind of ripples in the water out beyond. B95 is going to be that darkest color. And again, as I get darker, I use less and less color. BG10 is going to come back. That was that starting one, and it's kind of brushing over the entire area of color. And then a colorless blender is going to come into those kind of white U's or ripples to soften the edges around the ripples. So I'm going back and forth between those two markers a little bit. On the sky, I'm going to start in around the hippos with a B00. And this is a little bit darker than I usually start with sky. But because I've got so much of that water with that light blue green, I wanted to differentiate that sky and make it pop a little bit. And then I'm going to go out to a B000. And get lighter. And there was a funny little hiccup in the video there. That's because my B000 was completely empty. And so I went and refilled it so that I could blend these two together a little bit easier. So finishing up just little details, I am coming back in on the splashes and I'm adding that white opaque marker again just to brighten those up. They stayed white, but this is going to go over the top of that pink line that's still barely showing around the edges. And then when I finished the card, I actually did add a little bit of shimmer to those as well, just on the droplets, not on anything else. I think if I do this image again, which I am guessing I will, I'll bring that water line up higher, about 1 inch. But I loved coloring these little guys up because they were fairly quick and simple. So if you're a person who wants to try no line coloring and haven't tried it yet, this is actually a decent image to try it on because pretty simple shapes. Each hippo is kind of 3 sections, and so it's a little bit more easy to manage. Thank you so much for stopping by today. If you guys ever have any questions, make sure to attach those in the comments below because I do check in here at least once or twice a week and make sure I get those answered. I really do appreciate you coming by, liking the channel, and following. Thanks also to Kimmie Stamps this week for letting me join in on the fun. If you haven't had a chance, stop by my blog at stampweaver.com to check out all of my live teaching and things going on in my life. Everybody have a happy, colorful day.